Hey guys, what's up? This is Rami and J.Bear, and you are watching and listening to Marvel Chats.
No?
I don't know why I did this, and I don't know what are you doing there.
It's a bear.
Okay, tiger the tiger.
It's a
whatever.
bear, not
That's
tiger.
is that really a bear? I don't think that's a bear. Whatever. Okay, get out of here, dude. Halloween already ended. We're already past Thanksgiving. We're going towards Christmas now.
It is past November, so no shave November is over. I'm still fussy though.
You know, it's funny. I'm gonna call a certain individual, a friend of ours, out. John Casey. He tried to grow one out, and then he was doing Snapchats of him shaving it, and then his after shaving photo. And I was like, I can't tell the difference.
That is messed up. Dude.
We're just lucky that we could, yeah. John Casey, I called you out. I'm sorry, but
Yeah, this is too fuzzy. It's going away. So, anyways, happy
let's get into
December,
the show.
folks.
Yeah, happy December.
Yeah,
Happy December. Anyway, ready?
let's do it.
Let's do it. Today's episode, we're going to talk about what graphics design, blah 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 blah, what graphic designers hate in the dance community. If you don't already know, J.Bear here is actually a graphic designer.
Part time.
Part time. J.Bear, how do you like being a graphic designer?
I love it.
Part time.
It's a fun, creative way for me to just get my artistic side out there in a different media than obviously music and photography that I normally do, and architecture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it has its challenges, obviously. And one of the biggest challenges is getting the community aware of what a graphic designer does and the services that we provide.
Okay.
And, one of the biggest gripes that we have, and I hear from a lot of different people in the community, is telling you like the graphic design for a flyer for an event or for a logo for a dance company in general is not up to like professional standards.
Oh, when people say your flyer isn't good?
No, but just people in general talking about the dance community.
Oh, so okay. So I want to make sure I get it. People are talking smack about Latin dancers and the events because they don't have the graphics we put out aren't competitive or comparable to other industries.
Yes.
Okay.
Like big ballet dance company will have a nice, amazing logo for themselves sometimes.
Okay.
And our dance companies here, they don't really have the quality of identity that brings a logo. And that's one of my biggest starting points. Is dance logos are always the same thing. It's always a dip or a silhouette or dancers, and then the name of the logo at the bottom or something like that. No, nobody gets creative outside of that, or few people do.
I'm sorry. Would you say that's because the people don't know?
I think that's a big thing. I think the big issue is that people are not really aware. Whenever you tell somebody that you're gonna do their logo, they don't really know what that means. They don't understand what a logo actually entails for the company, for the dance company specifically. The logo is their identity, is their presence. It's it's basically equal to their first name. The first thing that people are gonna see.
Okay, so I'm sure you've talked with a couple of dance people, even event promoter people in the community, and I know you said you try and tell them it's their identity, but how would you tell the audience and explain it more to them?
Explain the what
logo, like the importance to get them to feel the gravitas of the symbol.
It's their identity.
All right, if you cannot use the word identity, how are you going to share it with them?
It's their identification.
Hey, fool, bring up your volume. We've been talking about audio issues.
The logo is the cover page. It's the first impression. Like you go on a date with somebody, the first time they see you.
Look at your shoes.
Yeah. Shoes? Who looks at shoes?
You never read the statistics?
No,
people look at shoes first.
Shy people look at shoes. Strong people look at your eyes and your face.
No, before you see him, you look down because you're on the phone or something. You're like, oh, you're wearing beat up Nike shoes.
So don't go out with dates with this guy. No. The first impressions in general, not just your shoes, your shoes, whatever. They look at that first. They look at the clothes you're wearing, how you're dressed, how you present yourself. Are you clean? Is your hair done? All that stuff, right? It's your physical presence before they get to meet you. You could be the most amazing person, but if you look like a slob, nobody's gonna want to date you.
Or it's just harder to make him want to date.
Or the other person's a slob too. Which congratulations. If you have if you have the
Hold on. Let's not judge.
no, I'm gonna keep going there.
Right
if you have a logo that is the logo equivalent of a slob, your clients are gonna be slobs. That's just how it is.
Okay.
You want to attract a more professional audience. You want to have a more professional logo.
Okay. So what constitutes, or what are the standards that make a professional logo?
Ooh, that's a long topic. Do you want to get into all this? Okay.
I'm gonna try and cut you off to 3 minutes if you could speak that long.
3 important things. Scalability, meaning your logo needs to be able to be seen small and identified in a small aspect as well as a big one. 2 is monochromatic. Make sure that your logo can be seen in color or black and white. Doesn't have to be dependent on color 100%. So if your logo is like a big circle with a bunch of different lines, but when you go monochromatic, it's just a circle, it's pointless.
Oh, okay. So there has to be defining, because that kind of could sound very confusing. Is there another example of what a monochrome design could be?
Circle.
Let's use a common logo that everyone knows.
AT&T logo.
Okay.
It's very dependent on color. Because it's one giant circle with lines that come across, and the way that they went around it is that they remove one of the colors when they go monochromatic, so that you don't see the white part or the blue part. It's only black.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That's still a little harder. I want to go a little bit simpler. How
about I get a
Twitter? Everyone knows the Twitter bird.
Yeah.
So how is that a good logo?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Why?
Because it's solid. And when you go into a black and white monochromatic, which is there's no shades of gray, it's just black and negative space.
Okay.
Then you can still identify it. Same with the Coca-Cola logo, the Nike logo, all those things.
Okay. Because I think a lot of people when they hear monochromatic or monochrome, they may think that gray could be part of that.
Yeah, there's a difference between black and white, which includes gray, and monochromatic. Also, black and white, grayscale, that's kind of the same thing.
You just lost.
Yes, and the third point.
Come on, graphic designers.
The third point before I move forward is simplicity. Like they'll say in KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Don't go too far. Don't try to do too much. Try to catch people's attention with the least amount of a detail that you can.
For the logo.
Yes.
Stuff. Okay. And I want to touch back on scalability. So when you're talking about scalability, does that mean like you could just stretch the image to the sizes that you want, or like what do you mean?
A logo that can be recognized if you're looking at it this big, and you can still see the same definition of the logo if you're looking at it when it's this big.
Oh, okay.
So meaning if you have like very thin lines and you go this big, all you see is like right through the logo. You don't actually see the lines. And if you have thin lines and you scale it down, you won't see them because they're too small.
Okay. So can you see it a mile away or over here? Or can you see it
on your phone?
Over here.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. I like it, Juan. You were able to keep it within about 3-ish minutes.
Boom!
I wasn't keeping track. If you guys noticed he went over 3 minutes, put it in the comments. J.Bear, you don't know how to keep it within 3 minutes. How did you pass Comms 5 in college?
Timer.
I think it's Comms 5 for the most public speaking.
Oh, yeah, that was
Your
fun.
Intro to public speaking, one of the finals, I think, is usually 4 or 5 minutes.
Nice segue. Nice side conversation you're having.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yourself.
All right, let's keep let's keep it moving forward. So those are the biggest things that you would like people to know more about.
When it comes to logos, yeah.
When it comes to logos, what's another thing that you noticed that a lot of people may not know about graphic design?
Keeping in the same aspect of logos is when you're designing something for somebody and you tell them, hey, can you send me your logo? And they send you a picture of it's a JPEG with their logo on top of some other background or whatever. Even if it's just their logo, they send you an image. You look at it, you're like, it's a JPEG. What am I gonna do with this? At the very least, send me a transparent PNG file so that I can place it somewhere and it doesn't have the surrounding image background. It's just the outline of the logo.
Okay, I feel like you just lost a couple.
I did, and this is more for the graphic designers. But
the
clients need to know this. If you don't know what to send, ask the graphic designer what you're getting or what they need. And if they tell you I need this and you don't know what that means, tell them that like I don't know what that means, and then they're gonna ask you what you have, and there might be that okay, I as a graphic designer I can turn your logo into a PNG or a vector and provide you those services for an additional fee.
Always.
Always.
Asterisk mark.
And then the next time you do the same thing, you can provide that for your next graphic designer or the same graphic designer if you're using it.
Okay. So as a graphic designer, what's the easiest format that if in an ideal world,
Vectors.
any person, vectors?
Vectors.
Okay, you cut off my
I did.
sentence. So
'Cause I
you're
knew where you
busting
were
around
going.
me. He's busting around me. I'm the one that cuts people off.
Vectors.
Okay, so what are vectors?
Vectors are AI files in Illustrator, or they not always, but they can be EPS as well. But AI files is the most common one. They are basically a series of calculations. So JPEGs are pixels; they're points in an image.
Okay.
You see one dot 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 that
Like
put
kind of
together.
like Battleship, like J5
No,
on the dots.
nothing like that.
Okay.
But yes, they are points that when you put together, they create an image.
Okay.
A vector is 1 point, and a calculation for a curve, and then that calculation is gonna draw the curve or the straight line. And the biggest things with the vectors is that when you scale them, they don't lose quality; they stay the same way because they're just calculations.
Okay.
They're not points. When you scale up a JPEG, you lose quality. You become pixelated.
Okay. So if you guys understood that, vectors, if you could help it, vectors.
Yes.
And I'm gonna do a little segue to that because, you know, like I've been on the side of the where you're trying to, you know, make T-shirts from graphic designers, and a lot of the manufacturers that do the T-shirt printing or designing, they ask for vectors as well.
They do.
And
if you don't give them vectors, you give them a JPEG file, they turn it into vectors themselves.
okay.
And they charge you extra for that.
Okay. So vectors, if there's anything that we could get everyone to stick with, is vectors are your holy grail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Vectors, I like it.
And just for your logo, you need to have like 4 different formats of the file. The JPEG that you can use, the PNG that's transparent,
Okay.
the AI vector file that your graphic designer is gonna need, and the PDF is basically a readable vector that you can see, but it has all the qualities of a vector file.
Okay, so those 4 things will be listed on the bottom. We're gonna make it J.Bear's homework to list
No,
it.
it's seriously like if you have a logo and you don't have those 4 formats, get on it, get with it, start focusing on that.
And how hard is it to make all those 4? If you have one, like say if you start off with the vector, or I'm gonna go back as if just a regular person, they start off with just a photo or JPEG. How much work or how long does it take to get it to be converted to those 3 others?
For me, as a graphic designer, or for any graphic designer,
Yeah.
it depends. If it's a complicated logo, it might take a little while. Simple ones is a little bit easier.
Okay.
And yes, the first thing is to turn it into a vector, and from there I can export into all the other formats easily.
Okay. All right. So this was really good stuff. I feel like we gave a lot of know-how, like little secrets for the artsy people and designer people. But now let's talk about graphic designing. You know, from the perspective of dancers when they see flyers, or even event promoters when they're conceptualizing and speaking with their graphic designers.
Okay.
On,
Let's start with
putting
the
it out
dancers.
there.
As a dancer, how do you feel about the graphic design out there?
It's all very generic. I see a lot of red, black, and white.
The standard colors.
They look really nice because that obviously the feel of it is sexy.
Right, it makes sense. Red is an essential color, and so black is just the easiest color to match with anything. So for an easiness of design, most of the less experienced graphic designers or people that don't have a graphic designer will use those colors.
Excuse me.
He's still sick from like 3 weeks.
I'm not sick. I just do whatever. Okay, and then the other thing besides colors is that whenever there's a theme on a graphic flyer, they're like, oh, this is gonna be, I'm just gonna say like,
Luau night.
Luau night. We go there to that event and like there's no luau connection at all.
They have like one person with a lei.
Yeah, so it's setting like you were saying, like first impressions with the logo. So the first impression I would get of your event is the flyer, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be thematic, and you're gonna take me away from the real world and put me in a bit of a fantasy, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then it's like.
Yeah, from a professional perspective, from the graphic design point of that, I can understand, because you can, like you said, the first impression is important. After that, you already have their money, so the promoter part is a different story. You should be able to maintain the quality of what you're putting out there, but from the graphic point of perspective, he did his job.
All right, okay, and then so then I'm gonna go from a dancer's perspective then.
Okay.
All right, so from a dancer's perspective, some things I've noticed is that sometimes there's just so much information or so much words. I'm like, Where does it say how much, where, address, and times? Like it gets very, very
It
hard
does.
to notice.
It does. And the biggest difference from 20 years ago to now is that the physical flyer, the actual like printed flyer,
Mhm.
is not used anymore or hardly.
Mhm.
And the reason you had all the information before that because you were handing out somebody a flyer, they'd be like, oh, I know where it is, where I'm gonna be, what time it is, how much it costs, who's playing, all that fun stuff, right?
Mhm.
Nowadays, the flyer itself, it's only used for attention grabbing.
Mm-hmm. The new, it's 2017 turning 2018.
It's all social media. All the
We
information.
should be marketing
Yeah.
in the year that we're in.
All
right?
the information is either on Eventbrite or Facebook or God knows whatever else you want to use. Your own webpage.
Well, like if you're on Instagram, it's like you have a nice attention-grabbing photo,
Mhm.
and then in the captions would have some details. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what all the details should be. And so you want to keep it like go back to the same thing I said earlier. Keep it simple, stupid,
Mm-hmm.
and keep something that is just attention grabbing.
Okay.
Salsa night. Maybe not that generic, but
Salsa and bachata night.
Yeah.
So it's not as generic.
Sure.
I'm kidding. All right. Let's wrap things up. So if you were to give some advice to someone who, or like a new club or even a student club, because everyone's still learning
Mhm.
and they don't have as much experience, what advice or like key points would you tell them to follow when they're creating their flyers and when they're creating these graphics?
Well, again, first thing, keeping it simple.
Okay.
Make sure that the subject matter is just pointing and catching your attention to one specific point.
Okay.
Secondly, try not to use the sexy girl in the flyer, or worse yet, the well-known dancers. Like if you have a picture of Ataca la Alemana in there, you're like, oh my God, they're gonna be there. No.
It's that setting up expectations I was
Exactly.
talking about. You're bait and switch, man. Bait and switch.
That's
People
a
hate
horrible
that.
bait and switch.
People hate that. Yeah.
Try to step outside the box. Don't use the same generic flyer or the same generic content that every other event is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Try not to use just pictures and placing them all like you're doing a scrapbook or
Okay.
a collage.
What if they want to do a scrapbook? I don't know.
There is a way to do it, but it has to look professional, organized, and I can get into all the graphic design of
Okay.
patterns, grids, intervals, and all
Let's
that
stay
stuff.
away from that, geek.
Mm-hmm. That all my graphic designers would love to talk about, but we're not gonna talk about today. In what else would I say? The font. Try to use a font that is impactful and meaningful. Try to play with contrast so that what's in front can be
Mhm.
seen in front and
Mhm.
is recognized as being the front, and not just kind of fading in the back and doesn't
Face the camera so they know what you're talking about.
front. And it doesn't vibrate with the other colors and it doesn't get confusing.
Okay, so would this be a good example since you're wearing some type of gray? This white contrast is just enough.
The white, yes. The green, no.
Okay, that's an example. And then can you give like one or two font styles that
No.
someone could use? No, can't give that away
No, because there's like
because it's all
millions.
artistic.
There's
Okay.
millions of graphic of
Mhm.
fonts that can be different, slightly different from the other.
Okay. Well,
And-
then what two graphic or font styles do you find yourself that you like to use?
AZO, AZO,
AZO.
and Futura.
Oh, Futura.
And those are just my
I don't
sans
know what
serif.
any of those reference.
Those are my sans serif choices. If I had to go serif, I would go like Garamond.
And then you just lost us because we don't know what sans serif is. Finish it up
shot
there.
the serif. No,
We're not gonna tell you what sans serif is because our time is up.
it is up. All right.
You're closing, fool.
That's what I thought. I was just trying to figure out like how am I gonna close it.
Let's wrap it up then.
Well, it's been fun talking to you guys about graphic design. I would love to get a little bit more geeky, and I'm sure I will one-on-one. If you have any questions about graphic design, that you're a graphic designer yourself, you have some opinions that you want to talk that Romy may not understand, message me directly.
Mhm.
Otherwise, tell us what you guys think. What do you think about the flyers in the community, the logos, the social media marketing presence, all the images that you see out there, how they speak to you or don't speak to you? And we'd love to hear that so that we can also use that for ourselves, for our own marketing stuff, and be like, oh, hey, that's a good idea. We're gonna steal it and turn it
no, we're
upside
not
down.
stealing it. Oh, okay, yeah, we are.
Yeah, well, we're borrowing.
we're we're being inspired.
Yes, inspired.
Yes.
But that's it for us. Thank you for visiting us one more time, and you stay classy, Sacramento.
Hey everybody, if you enjoyed the show, please add us on Facebook at More Book Chats. If you want to know what me and J.Bear are about, add us on Instagram. My tag is Rami Sunga. J.Bear is J.Bear Mixes. And a big shout out to Mellow Me Out for letting us use their space. Please also add him on Instagram at Mellow Me Out Sacramento. Everybody, have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.